welcome to the Leaderonomics show. I'm your host for today, Audrey, and this is my co-host, Sarah.
Hi, and today we're very honored to have with us two very special guests from the European School of Management Technology. We have with us Bianca Schmitz and Dr. Jans Weinmann. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about ESMT and also maybe your respective roles within that.
So, ESMT Berlin was founded in 2002. It's a business school. We offer like the entire range of things that a good business school should offer. So, starting with degree programs, we offer an MBA, EMBA program, a master in management, and you can also do a PhD studies. And then one of the focuses is also executive education, where both of us are part of. So executive education means we have open programs that are accessible for everyone, and customized programs where we actually design programs together with our clients and then trying to make it as close to their business as possible.
Bianca, when you said the programs are open to everyone, what does that mean actually? Anybody can apply, or it means to corporate individuals?
Exactly. So basically everyone could apply that is interested. Some of the courses are actually, well, not closed, but you should have a certain degree of experience. So if it comes to leadership courses, and we offer, for example, something for young leaders, it would not make any sense to have like a very experienced leadership person in this course. The same for an advanced leadership course. There you should at least have some experiences and also show that in your CV that you would have to hand in.
All right.
And just one word, why we are here in Malaysia. We got contacted by an organization called K-Pintar some 3 years ago. They looked for someone in Germany who could tell something about the German economy, why it is performing so well, and also with respect to innovation, which we may talk about later, looking for some institution that would help SMEs from Malaysia to gain some insights when they come to Germany. And so they found us, and since then we are in contact, and we have been together with SMEs from Malaysia in Germany. We have come here, and a number of our faculty have come here to teach, and also most recently we had a group of journalists coming to Germany to explore how digitalization changes their business and how German media companies are tackling that challenge.
Okay, that's really exciting actually. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what you do with ESMT.
So both of us are very much in the innovation field. We are teaching methods like design thinking and a bit of Scrum Agile, so new methods how to organize teams to become more creative and how to organize teams to implement ideas more efficiently. And so we are traveling all around the world, trying to do workshops with mostly executives on that topic. So that is one of our focuses. My particular focus is on energy and transport. So there are radical changes that are actually happening in the European energy system, lots of renewable energies coming in. What does it mean also in terms of innovation for startups? So before you had these old utilities, now you have lots of startups that are attacking these utilities and who are coming up with new business models. So I'm very much looking at that. And Bianca, you want to say what you're focusing on?
Yeah. So my actual focus, beside the innovation part, which is but also very well combinable, is the hidden champions part. So I basically work quite closely together with German hidden champions, so small, medium-sized companies that are world market leaders in one specific niche, and are therefore also as kind of success factors, which we are also including in the programs that we're doing with Malaysians in Germany. And apart from that, both of us are program directors within the executive education part, which means that we are collaborating a lot with companies and are trying to design programs according to the needs and challenges that they're facing, to support the specific target groups with coping on this specific challenges.
Yeah. And innovation really is a big word, right? And when we look at leadership, for example, or leaders, we always think that a key characteristic they need to have is the ability to innovate, right? So what do you think that actually means for someone to be able to continuously innovate and change and adapt?
So from my perspective, I would say keeping an open mindset.
Okay.
Being open for change as well, and also observe the markets, the environments, looking into different markets, which might also be inspiring to look at for their own businesses. So basically, from my perspective, to be able to be innovative, be open.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
And for you?
I would use that proverb that R&D is spending money on ideas, and innovation is transforming ideas into money. So there is, so you first have the idea, but the idea by itself is not yet fully sufficient in order to be innovative. The part of innovation is then how to commercialize an idea and to make it the business viable. So typically we preach that there are 3 different dimensions to it. One would be the technical feasibility, then there's the human desirability, and also the economic viability. So if someone has the capability of combining these 3 dimensions and bringing ideas into the market, making them successful, that would be a task that a good leader should do.
Right.
I see. Okay.
What have been some key challenges that you've seen as you try to teach people about innovation, or try to kind of talk or promote or advocate some of these concepts?
Please go ahead.
Well, I would say there's a lot of potential in companies to be innovative, so to nourish new ideas and to bring them to market, but often these companies face institutional, organizational hurdles that they are not capable of setting up the right organizational design to protect the ideas in the beginning, but then also to expose them to market forces. So there's a lot going on now in the field of innovation, how to test new methods, how to interact more quickly with customers in order to know what they want, and to develop prototypes with which you can experiment. And if that if that is more a culture that comes into organizations that values failure as a part of the process, then that would be a great achievement. But often in nowadays organizations, failure is seen as a personal fault of an individual, and we are with most incentive systems penalizing failures and incentivizing only successes, and like that you cannot create a culture of innovation, because innovation always includes failure.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
right.
very different way of approaching it, very different way of thinking.
Right. Right.
Adding on this one, I would rather say that a lot of leaders and managers, senior executives, are also lacking of time. They're so into operations all the day that they cannot really step back to think about new possibilities and to really explore possibilities, explore different markets, which also is kind of a hurdle and a challenge to take the time to do so. And then what I can observe as well is that in many organizations nowadays there are kind of smallish incubators or units that really deal with innovation, with new business models that that probably are not only product driven but also service driven, that develop something, but they're kind of a blind spot in the entire organization. So the others know that there is something, but they don't know what's really happening there. And then also taking these blind spots back to the organizations, making them visible, and also like an experience for the rest of the organization to also be able to change accordingly, to be more like agile and more open for these kind of changes and innovations is also something that is really like a difficulty in basically probably the big organizations, but it also comes to the mid-sized organizations that have a certain size and have to deal with this one.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We'll take a short break right here, right? And perhaps when we come back, we can explore a little bit more as well to do with innovation, your Corporate Entrepreneurship Matrix.
Okay.
Right. So we'll take a short break and we'll come back again soon.
Hi, welcome back to the Leaderonomics show. We're here today with Bianca and Dr. Jans from the European School of Management Technology. So we were talking about innovation earlier, and there's this thing called the Corporate Entrepreneurship Matrix. That's supposed to be a framework for different kinds of innovation. Perhaps you could tell us more about that?
So it was actually developed by a colleague and friend of ours called Christoph Rädke. He used to be a serial entrepreneur, starting off in the first internet bubble, and he learned a lot out of it, so that he became the academic director of an organization that is called GTech in Berlin, the German Tech Entrepreneurship Center, and we have been cooperating closely with them from our school, ESMT, and he developed the Corporate Entrepreneurship Matrix as a framework in which you could categorize all the different attempts how companies start to become more innovative. Because nowadays with digitalization and globalization, you have many more opportunities in different fields to become innovative and to extend your trajectories of searching beyond your own company, because you can tap the resources that are sitting somewhere in Japan, in Africa, wherever they are.
Right.
And beforehand they were silos and isolated, and nowadays you can connect them within an hour in the internet.
Right. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So we would think about some elements of that matrix that we added. So we extended the matrix a bit, and Christoph is hopefully happy about it. So we would say that you have lots of possibilities, but in principle the matrix says either you can do all your research internally and your innovations. So that you mean that means you use the internal resources, your innovators
like
in the
what
company.
Google does. Like what Google does?
Yeah, what Google does. Or you can go external. That means, for example, you can have hackathons where you invite people to spend a weekend working on an app for large companies or for TechCrunch and organizations like that. So you could do it externally, but then there's also the possibility of doing it targeted. That means you know what you're looking for. So there you could, for example, use open innovation platforms where you post a particular challenge. For example, I want to have an automated robotic to collect blueberries without damaging them. A very specific target, and then you would have websites that would actually be able to tap into a research network and would activate those people who might have a solution for that. So that would be a targeted innovation, that would be the other axis of that matrix. And the disruptive version is the opposite of that. Disruptive or radical means that you have different opportunities, you explore different paths, you invite different startups to come and, for example, in an incubator or an accelerator to test their ideas in the hope that at least one of these startups might have the new game changer for your company. And accepting that the others might fail.
Right. So the internal, the external, the targeted one, and the disruptive.
Exactly.
The four different parts.
Yes, 4 quadrants. Audrey, do you have another question?
Right. Bianca, one of your focus areas lies in agile innovative processes, especially with the hidden champions, which we mentioned in the previous segment. Right? Could you maybe tell us a little bit more about that? How has that experience been, and what are some highlights or insights that have come up from that?
Sure. So at ESMT, we will launch Hidden Champions Institute November 22. This is an initiative mainly driven by ESMT, but also supported by Hidden Champions from Germany. And actually the man that has made this term really very popular, which is Professor Dr. Hermann Simon. He himself is obviously a professor, but he's also been co-founder from a consulting company called Simon Kucher and Partner. They are basically focusing themselves on pricing strategies, are in their segment also kind of a hidden champions, which is market leader. So there's this concept of hidden champions, which means that you would rather be world market leader in one specific niche, or at least in the top 3 in this specific segment. You would most of the times have a global reach. Your profit is already quite high, obviously, and we have in Germany around more than 1,600 hidden champions. So they are basically or mainly working in B2B businesses. This is why they're most of the times hidden. And there are some very lovely examples like Herrenknecht, which are producing tunneling machines. So they're really huge machines. And out of a business of 1.5 billion as a world market potential revenue, they have more than 1.28 out of this one. So they're really like world market leaders. And recently Elon Musk from, that is pretty well known from Tesla, but is also founded this company of Boring Company for building this tunnel, this high-speed tunnel, is also using with his Godot, he's called that, probably Herrenknecht machines, so quite popular.
So a lot of manufacturing software companies.
Software companies, not so many, but a lot of technology-driven companies. So most of them, with I think 68–9% of them are working in industries. And the main goal of the institute itself will be to have specific executive education for this segment in Germany, so for German or European hidden champions, but also offering international markets the potential of exploring the success factors of these hidden champions, and then doing some proper research on that, academic but also very practical oriented, and to provide a network and a platform for these organizations, companies, but also politics, and not only national-wide but also international.
Okay, so predominantly are the companies mostly German and European at this point?
Well, we were founded in the beginning, like with a lot of German companies. So one of the chairman of our the advisory board will be a guy from Knauf, so the CEO there. We have other organizations in as well, and also Hermann Simon supporting it. And apart from that, of course, we already have a lot of hidden champions as customers, but also working with the Malaysian SMEs. I would also say most of them are eventually not so well known, but they're really successful already, and they're really growing very fastly. And I just had conversations with a couple of them, and they can really double their revenues within a year. So this is amazing.
There's lots of potential in that area.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's take another short break. And when we come back, we'll zoom in a little bit more into leadership and what are some of your thoughts regarding what makes great leaders, right? Okay, see you again shortly, back on the Leaderonomics show. Welcome back to Leaderonomics show with me, Audrey and Sarah, and also our guests today, Dr. Jans and Bianca from the ESMT in Berlin. Right, so we're going to talk a little bit about leadership because, well, we're the Leaderonomics show, right? Okay, so just to tap into a little bit of your thoughts or your perspective on what makes a great leader. Perhaps, Bianca, you can tell us from your opinion or from all the people that you've been interacting with, through the school and programs.
Okay. So, well, as we are both teaching, for example, design thinking, we always preach to our students and executives that they should work in more like multidisciplinary teams, which means that you should also sometimes forget hierarchies and really make sure that you can benefit from all different hierarchies, and that you would rather work as teams and in a more collaborative way, which is kind of one of the key elements actually when it comes to the design thinking approach. But of course there are also other ways of leadership. So I think a good leader should also have a good knowledge about the networks in his organization. So he should know who are the core persons that know about things that are going on in the organization, and he should be able to connect to exactly these persons to also get the information and the vibes of what is going on and how the atmosphere is. Should be a very communicative person, so should talk a lot to his employees, and should try to also involve them and make them take part in everyday's work.
Right. Right. You know, understanding the key movers or the key players in the organization definitely is something that's so important. But how does one go about that? Because you kind of have to be really authentic about wanting to build that kind of relationship. And I'm not just here because I want to know what's the latest gossip, right? So how would someone, or how would you advise a leader, I suppose?
I think you should not be the one that has the network as a leader. It's not necessary at all. I think you should know who these persons are, and you should make sure that you get to that you are in touch with them every now and then to understand better what's going on in the specific company or department that you are actually working in.
Yeah. Sounds like someone who really needs a wide network, who's not afraid to socialize.
High
really
EQ
get out there.
as well, right?
Yeah.
Imagine it as a spider net. So if you're like in, and you should just know where the connections are.
Very strong attribute of leadership today.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what about you, Dr.
Well,
Jans?
I was thinking, I did my PhD in decision sciences, so maybe I should add something more about the individual side. And that would be, so you know, there was that Daniel Kahneman who published a book, Thinking Fast and Slow. He's a Nobel Prize winner in economics, and that went a lot into behavioral economics and showing the limits of human decision making, because beforehand it was always assumed that in economic theory that there would be a type of rational decision making. Since then it has become more widespread that this is not the case. And I think my main insights, also from the multitude of executives with whom I've been cooperating and in terms of self-reflection, I would say that it is good to know about your limits. So often there are certain flaws in our thinking. We would find overconfidence, which might be helpful to some extent, but might be detrimental if it goes too far. Then there's something called the sunk cost fallacy, which might be interesting. So you have invested a lot of time in one project. So you take ownership of that project, your heart is associated with that, or your emotions, and then it's very difficult to let loose. So get some external people to tell you the truth about what is actually going on, thinking about many of these elements that make our decisions more difficult, because they drive us into one direction which is pleasant to us but not necessarily the right one to tackle. So I would say go and investigate in these books what are these common flaws, and they are characteristic to most of the human beings, and then think about, is that really something that I can relate to?
Yeah, right. So I guess for a person who wants to have a leadership quality, they need to be aware of what's going on around them and not let their strong personality or attachment to their project kind of drive everything.
Right. Yeah, and it sounds like the self-awareness, the awareness is not just what's around, but really it can be very internal, the self, right? But sometimes it's so deceiving.
It is.
Absolutely. And just to add on that one, or build on that one, I think one of the hugest problems of a lot of functional leaders that get into a general management functions is to admit themselves to let loose, so that they don't have to be in every detail anymore, that they
have to trust
should also
and
trust
empower
in their employees
Yeah.
and also be okay with just getting a report instead of looking into the exact deep numbers.
No micromanaging. Yeah.
This is really, really something that a lot of people that have gone through this transition are lacking of.
Yeah. Yeah. Managing people, it's completely different from being very operational or being very functional in a task that you do. Right?
And one word about the changing landscape in which we are finding ourselves. So we have a completely new world that has been established over the last 10, 15 years with our smartphones, with digitalization, with the internet. So it means that we also have a completely different mindset of people who are now getting, so I think there's a discrepancy between most leaders nowadays who have been brought up with a different world and the young people who are now going into the market, and there might be some type of disconnect between the, in German you would call it Lebenswelt, the world in which they are living, of the old and the new generation. So trying to get the communication right so that the millennial is not an alien to the older person.
Right.
Which kind of brings us to our next question, really. You know, we at Leaderonomics, we work with a wide range of people from the C-suite level as well as young youth or people just coming out to the workplace. So what would your leadership advice be for someone who's just freshly graduated or someone who, you know, who's a CEO or a COO? Yeah, maybe Bianca could.
Yeah. So probably as a young leader, you should to learn to reflect also on yourself and to learn also how to balance yourself and your team. Probably most of the young leaders are also very passionate about going forward. So also don't put too much effort on yourself, too much pressure on yourself, and really also enjoy the possibility of learning and also asking very actively for feedback, what to do better, and also try to have a mentor. I always like this opportunity to reflect oneself, to either go to a professional coach, because it's something that you have to learn and that you have to practice, and I'm pretty sure that your employees can also give you something back.
Okay. For someone in a C-suite level, how would they improve their leadership, or what would your advice be to them?
Could I just go back to the young leaders?
Sure.
But it's also relevant for the C-level. I'm a general supporter of the generation YOLO, you only live once, and this is also relevant for people of my age, I would say. Life becomes more precious the older you get, because there's less left. So in that respect, I think it is very important to take the time off to think, do you really want to work in which you're working? You spend, people spend so much time, 40, 50, 60 hours per week with one particular job. You can bear it over time to say, okay, 2 or 3 years I'm going to do that, but then do something that you really like, because life is the most precious resource that we have.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I think that's all the time we have. It's been great having you on the show, and thank you for watching the Leaderonomics show.